Why waste doesn't exist?
Have you ever found it really hard to admit to something? Maybe you've made a mistake, maybe you've done something wrong. Have you found it really difficult? Maybe you made up a story or told a lie. I'm sure we've all faced that situation. Well, what about, have you ever had a situation that's so stressful, you feel like trauma, and so you just can't even process the situation, you can't even deal with it, and you find it, maybe you make up a story to make it feel better, or maybe you've even forgotten that it ever happened, and then years later you remember it. See, these things happen to all of us. They're a natural way of coping, and it's called a defense mechanism. Now, I'm not here today to talk about defense mechanisms, but as humans, when we try to cope with something, we all naturally have this. We go on the defense. And we want to think about not only how we do this as individuals, but we also do this as a society, as a whole. There's many big issues, big problems that we all do, or we all put this defense mechanism, and we don't actually deal with the problem. Instead, we belittle it, we deny it, we justify it, and we go through these different procedures. When you think about waste, and why I say that waste doesn't exist. Waste is one of these problems that we have set up. Worldwide, many people, many countries, many governments are trying to deal with this waste problem. But actually, the reason that many of them are struggling is because they fail to understand that waste itself doesn't exist. Well, why can I say that? Well, you may be wondering what this illustration is behind here, but I'm sure you've seen it in school, even in elementary school level. When first things we learn about science is that everything in nature has cycles. There's a carbon cycle, phosphorus cycle, the nitrogen cycle. You probably even thought of a few cycles yourself, oxygen cycle. See, there is no waste in nature. There is no such thing. Everything is a cycle, everything continues. Some things might even seem like waste when we look at nature, but they're not. For instance, with this picture here, you see the bears. They're eating the fish and even the wolf. But they have this habit where they'll eat the salmon, and then during the end of the season, they're so full that they only eat certain parts. So they'll just bite the brains, and if it's a female fish, they'll eat the roe. Now, when we look at this, we probably think, what a waste, what a beautiful fish, and they're just taking a couple of chunks and leaving it. But actually, when you have a further investigation, you realize that these fish are left into the jungle, and they fertilize the jungle. They make the soil very rich in nutrients. Not only that, the other animals, the smaller animals that aren't able to catch the fish, now have a source of food. See, nothing goes to waste. Nothing in nature doesn't have a purpose. And that's why I say that waste doesn't exist. In fact, when you look at the definition of waste, if you type into Google waste definition, waste meaning, this is the first thing that will pop up. And what we're talking about is waste in this sense, the unwanted or unusable material, substance or byproducts. See, there is no such thing as a material that's unwanted or unneeded or unusable. Everything has a place. But it all comes down to how we attribute value to that material. I don't have time to talk about the philosophy of how we value things, but it's important to know because the whole problem that we deal with here is connected to how we give value to materials. Because we've created these words, waste, trash, rubbish. In Malay it's sampah. See, we use these words, and actually what they are is a way of justifying, they're a defense mechanism. Because once we've finished with the product, we don't know what to do with it. So we say it's waste. No longer do we have accountability. No longer do we have responsibility. But that just doesn't make sense. Because these products, these materials are still valuable. If you view materials in a different way, you start to understand the whole concept differently. For instance, if we look at plastics, one of the biggest environmental problems, the biggest problems with waste is plastic. But we have to think about plastic as its property. See, plastic is a strong, durable material. Yes, it might be cheap to produce, but its property is very valuable. There's so many uses, and we see it every day. Plastic affects every part of our life. So why then do we use it for single-use objects? How did that ever get passed? How did that ever make sense? We really have to reanalyze the way we use material. A lot of the products and things that we've seen, the designs we see today, should never have even been designed. They should never exist. Because people need to take the properties of a material into consideration when they're making a design. If you think of it with this illustration of plastic and gold, imagine someone using single-use gold. Could you ever imagine such a thing? Someone who just ate off one gold plate and then threw it away straight away, drank through a gold straw and then just discarded it. If we knew someone who was rich enough to do that, we'd be quite disgusted, wouldn't we? We'd be quite furious that they were just throwing away gold. But we do the same thing, all of us. We're discarding plastic like it has no meaning, like it has no value. And not just plastic, but many other materials. See, the way to really understand how immature that is, imagine if you're a child at home and you're talking to your mum. You finish eating off your plate and your mother says, I want you to wash up your plate after you finish. You can apply all the excuses that people use for waste management into that situation. So your mother says, I want you to wash that plate. Oh, but Mum, with all the plates that you still have in the drawer, and the time and energy it would take me to go and wash this dish, I'm sure it's easier just to grab another plate. See, I don't know about your mother, but my mother would not accept that as an excuse. And we just couldn't. Mother Earth can't accept it as an excuse as well. We're being so irresponsible with the materials we're using, and we're viewing them as waste when they're actually something that's very valuable. Everything we have can be reused, repurposed, recycled, restored. And that's something that we have to start looking into. One of the things that you might hear popping up a lot recently is this word of a circular economy. It's been coined a lot. And people are talking about this circular economy of having the full scale, the full cycle. Just like an environment, just like the ecosystems we see, just like in the nature, in the whole world, we have this concept that we can actually move away from a linear economy. See, this definition was one of the first things that popped up as well when you Google it, but actually it's not an alternative, it's the only way that we can continue to exist. What we're doing now is not an alternative. We have to discard this process of make, use and dispose. And we have to start being responsible. We have to create businesses, create devices that can help us to close that circle, to keep products in continuation, keep using them, regenerate them, and then give them the full life that they deserve. Now that I've been working in marketing for Amazing Borneo, it's a tour company, and so I've been learning that this issue, just like many issues, is about marketing. See, when you look on, I'm sure you've all seen the abundance of videos, photos of environmental destruction, animals being choking on plastic and so on. And they're very distressing. But how do they make you feel? Do you feel like you can accomplish something, or do they make you feel like you're powerless? See, this is the marketing strategy we have to think about. The reason I'm showing this picture is, in Australia, I remember the message used to always be with smoking. Smoking is bad. Smoking will kill you. Every cigarette you smoke is going to kill you. It's making you sick. But then, all of a sudden, I think it was around 2009, the message changed. You started seeing posters like this popping up. We're saying, stop smoking, start repairing. And the message turned to every cigarette you don't smoke is doing you good. All of a sudden, it was a positive message, it's positive reinforcement. People started to feel, actually, this is achievable. It's not telling me to quit smoking straight away, it's just saying that every cigarette I don't smoke, I'm working towards it, I'm getting healthier. And then it gives realistic time frames and goals of how your body starts to repair when you minimize and eventually stop smoking. See, this positive message is what helps many more people to make a change in their life. People already knew that smoking was bad. They've had the messages for a long time, but now they needed the positive reinforcement. They needed something that would lower that defense mechanism and help them to make a change. So when we apply this to the problem of waste, we can do the same thing. For instance, if you see these are the images of mounds of garbage washing up on a beach. You can show these and you can say how sad it is, but what's going to be more productive, showing people this waste or showing them products that can be made from that waste? Physical things that you can make and teaching people how to do it. Even tiles that have been just hand pressed out of plastic, furniture that's been molded by hand, even 3D printing material. They can go straight into a 3D printer and now print a range of designs that were never possible before. Well, what about this? You could show people the birds, the sea life, everything that's been destroyed. Or you could show them people taking the debris from the sea and turning it into skateboards, surfboards, beautiful jewelry. See, seeing the possibility, seeing what people can achieve, helps them to overcome that feeling of sadness and then putting up that defense mechanism. All of a sudden, everyone is able to see that, hey, there's something realistic here. I might not be able to fix everything, but I can make changes. I can do something about it. One of the companies that have been doing this is called Precious Plastic. It was started by the guy in Holland. His name is Dave Hackens. And if you look on YouTube, he has a range of videos teaching people how to build their own machines and recycle plastic straight away. These are the machines that he sets out, the first kit, and it's all online, open source, anyone can download. You can make the machines out of old ovens, recycled metal, steel. Even he shows how to find cables and recycle electrical cables. See, when you use these machines, they follow the basic principles. When you're working with plastic, all you need is heat and pressure. So all of these machines follow that principle. And this is the way that we need to think. Plastic is not the only waste. Maybe you know, but even in Sabah, there is no glass recycling. We have tons of glass. Where does it go? Into a landfill. See, and a landfill doesn't solve anything. This is a landfill. And even Dave Hackens, who invented the machines, he knows that with the machines, with the technology, that's not going to fix the problem. What's going to fix the problem is the mindset. We have to change our mindset. We have an idiom in English that you can't just sweep something under the carpet. But that's exactly what a landfill does. How have we allowed these things for so long? What do we think is going to happen? We put it in a hole and it just magically, poof, it's gone. But now we have to do something about it. This is why we've started Potensi Plastic in Kota Kinabalu, where we're downloading those open source designs, we're building the machines, and we're trying to follow the example that's been set by Dave, but not just him, the many other people online who are coming up with ingenious ideas. And the idea here is to share your knowledge, not to hold it, not to hold on to the designs you make, or if you have any different drawings, different solutions. Then they've created an online community at preciousplastic.com, and everyone can connect, everyone can share, and it makes it, you feel like you're not alone anymore. Everything's possible. And this is why we're doing this with Potensi Plastic. So we named it that because it's a Malay name, we're in Sabah, and hopefully people can understand the plastic ada potensi. And that's what we want to do. This is what we're trying to achieve. But actually this is under a much broader area of what I want to achieve. When you ask what my dream is when we're thinking about this TED Talk and the theme, my dream is to something much greater than Potensi Plastic. My dream is something like Tampa Sampa. A world where we no longer have waste, no longer have these problems, where we're able to create these more machines, follow the basic principles, and then teach villages, teach companies to design their own or build their own machines, recycle their own waste, make products that they can sell, and have a whole different economy. Economy that empowers people to live a clean, healthier life and still make money and still benefit from it. This is why we are trying to do that around the world. Many people are joining on board. And if you think of it, there's so many things that can be recycled. So if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, try and think. There is still the half of the circle. The cycle is not complete. There's so many niches in the market that have to be started today. There's so many things that aren't being recycled. You could be an entrepreneur. Just be creative. Come up with the design. Think of the basic elements and build a machine that will help to do that. Think of how you could use glass. Think of how you could use paper. And try and close that circular economy. And then people will support it. So when we're talking about waste, I don't believe waste exists, except in one area. There are some things you can waste. You can waste time. We only have so much time. And once a minute's gone, you can't get it back. You can waste a moment, an opportunity. There's the physical things that you can't waste. So what I would like to encourage everyone is, don't waste the time that you have. Don't waste this opportunity we've been given. Think forward. Think of how you can build a circular economy, create different jobs, different tools, different machines, different products that empower people, and then we can all aim for a better future.